Okay, so I'm making this video really early in the morning because this is just something that's on my mind. A lot of times when you tell people that you keep the Shabbat, or you're dealing with people that know you keep the Shabbat or whatever, they kind of look at you as if it's like, oh, that's your thing, it's something that you do, or or it's some just type of religious thing, like a 7-day Adventist thing or a Jewish thing, but they act as if it's not something that is commanded in Scripture. It's something that the Most High has asked us to do, and it's not something that the Messiah kept himself, the disciples kept himself, and and um, and it's also something that sets his people apart, because he said that this will show who my people are. This is to show. This is like a marker, a token. So when we say, oh, it's your thing, then that makes it as if it's not something that came from the Most High. These are things that came from Him. And sometimes we look at it as a religious thing, or when people look at religion now, they look at it as a bad thing, or if you're being religious or being obedient, it turns into something bad, as if, oh, you're being obedient, now you're a religious fanatic. Like, no, I'm just trying to be obedient to what the word says. So it's nothing other than that. And it reminds me of, for instance, like when you have, even with your parents, your parents always tell you, make sure you do what I tell you to do. I don't care who says what, which, if your friends make fun of you or whatever, you need to do what I say. And when they are obedient, sometimes they might get made fun of with their friends or whatever, but you're even more pleased with them because they overcame all of that, and yet they were still obedient to what you told them to do. And it reminds me of also when you're in school. Think about when you're at school and you have that one student who's always trying to be obedient. The teacher leaves the room and said, hey, y'all need to sit at your desk, be quiet, and until I get back. And you have the one student that's actually sitting in her desk, being quiet, waiting on the teacher to come back. And all the other students, since the teacher left, they running around and acting a fool and doing all kind of crazy stuff because they know the teacher's not there. So, and the one student that's sitting there, they want to make fun of that student and say, oh, look, if she just good at two shoes or whatever, they have something to say, because she's sitting there being obedient. Somehow then they become upset with her or him because that student decided to sit down and be obedient and do what the teacher says. And don't let that student even open their mouth to say, Miss So-and-so said we're supposed to sit down and be quiet until she gets back. Everybody, oh, okay, look at her trying to... And it become like a whole big thing just because she's trying to help you out by telling you, hey, you're supposed to be quiet now. We're supposed to be sitting here waiting on the teacher. But in our minds, people are so upset with the person who's trying to be obedient, or the person who's trying to do right, that we can't even to think to be obedient. So you get upset with the child that is being obedient, that is listening and doing what the teacher asked. So when you see somebody saying they're keeping Shabbat, it's them being obedient. It's not them trying to be religious or trying to be somehow holier than thou. It's what the scriptures say. It's a commandment that we are supposed to keep. And if we understand that, then we aren't mad at the people who are trying to be obedient. We don't become those people who are looking at them like, oh, no. Oh, that person's trying to be obedient to the word. We know that the Mashiach kept the Shabbat. We know that the disciples kept the Shabbat. We know throughout Scripture that his people kept the Shabbat. It was something that he put there in the very beginning. He set the day apart. So instead of trying to categorize something as being religious, or trying to look at somebody as being holier than thou, or thinking that, no, it's simply being obedient. And those things are very simple. So the word says it is very simple. 6 days you shall work, 7 days is the Sabbath, and it's set apart to Yahuwah and to his people. Very simple.